Alright, cool. Hey, what's up? So we're doing crits. I already critted this image the other day. I think you can watch it on demand. I'm not sure what day it was. But I'm going to give you just a couple run-throughs on other things. You've done a lot more work to it, which is cool. I'm glad to see you running with some of the suggestions I made. Other things I think you should run with, basically, these elements of the tree are way too vertical. They're way too up and down. They don't have any kind of diagonal. And with these twisty kind of swamp roots, there's a lot of freedom to, like, really stress how these things are growing. Like, you should have one going behind the cane to interrupt that shape because it'll make her look like she's, in a space more. And plus that huge triangle in here is like super, super empty. So at least bring one down in here to fill that space up. And then, definitely have this. Let's take a look. And then I suggested the other day that you turn the cane inward to make it look like she's a little more unstable supporting the weight because she's old and she's kind of weak. And I stand by that. I know you haven't done it yet, but the cane I think should be at an angle like this. Also because the sleeve is falling straight down and you don't want the cane to be the same exact shape as the sleeve. Because the way you had it, if I turn this off, the cane is just covering the sleeve and it's kind of strange. Whereas if you do it this way, you can show the sleeve separate from the cane, and turning it in makes it look like she's a little more unbalanced and bent over by the weight. If you look at any illustration, like classic fantasy illustration, Arthur Rackham, stuff like that, the old witch or the old lady is always kind of bent and twisted, and her features are always kind of turned in and warped. And you want to go with that because that's what this is. You want to play to those subconscious reads. So a little more work in the cast shadow. I like that you're making the water transparent and showing underneath where the roots are going. Just in general, your roots are very safe. You should make them growing out into more directions and stuff under the water. And if the water is going to be transparent, show me other stuff. Like one of the other suggestions I made, I think the other day, I'm not sure if I said to do this or not, is that if it's in a swamp and there's water, show stuff on top of the water as well as below. So one thing on top of the water obviously is going to be lily pads and stuff. So like, over here, you can add lily pads on top of the water to make it look like it's actually transparent by giving something on the surface. If you show something on the surface, it's going to make the depth read as actual depth and not just a translucent plane of glass that's between her and this other thing. So like, add the lily pads. There'll be a nice little design rhyme with the mushrooms growing on the trees, which is kind of cool because it's more circular shapes. You can bring them in the background. You can do all kinds of fun stuff with them. Bring them in back here, Just look at swamps that have lily pads. They grow in lots of big clumps, and you can have a lot of fun, put them anywhere you want, really. I like that you're adding grass and stuff growing out of the swamp. That's a new element to the piece. I know I talked last time about adding growth. I'm glad you're doing that. The big thing I'm going to say is add more growth, like where I just added it on this stump right here. That's just a horizontal straight line bisecting her face.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the one thing about this that's
Yeah, it's really, really weird. So you want to soften that as much as possible. Maybe have another part of that root growing down diagonally like I did with the one in front of it. Have another piece of that root coming forward like this to interrupt that solid straight line that just cuts right through her. Because
you
that
know what?
interrupts it. Hmm?
Sorry. I have sort of a big suggestion actually, and it'd probably be a lot more work, and I'd understand if it's something you wouldn't want to do.
Go ahead, man.
But just grabbing that tree on the left, bringing it in way closer to the lady, moving her over to the right a little bit, making it a vertical composition. So you get a little bit of those ferns covering up her form in the foreground.
Yeah, let's try it.
You've got the glowing little insect there.
Yeah, I was yeah. I was gonna say that I don't really like the square anyway, but let's just recrop it and see if it looks better. Because there's no reason. I mean, I'm assuming this is for your portfolio, right? This isn't client work. It's not set to dimensions that you have to cater to. I'm assuming this is just personal work. So it's personal work. You have the freedom to make these kinds of changes. And if you have that freedom, you should take advantage of it whenever you need to. Because right now there's a lot of empty space that's just kind of hugging her shell, and it's just really empty.
And it looks like a frame around her more so than like elements within the painting that are framing her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a graphic frame almost.
So I'm just going to move this over now to like here. Like there, you think?
I'd say actually bring it a little further over and then take the bug and have the bug crossing over the tree.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? So you're making more of a vertical composition. I don't know. You can even crop it in on the right a little bit.
Yeah.
Like a full crop on the right, like actually just cutting part of it out.
Yeah. Like that.
Yeah. And I think you got a much stronger composition. It's lending itself better to a vertical composition anyways with the elements you have in there.
Yeah, that works better. I'm going to select the bug now.
Yeah, that's a lot better. I mean, there's just so much more interest going on at this point. You know, you're making her more of the focus of the piece. You're framing her better. You're cutting out a lot of the work you'd have to do on the water, which isn't adding to your composition anyways at this point.
Yep. Yep. So that's something you really should do.
I just think if you didn't do it, it'd be a missed opportunity. But I totally understand. It's a lot more work.
It's more work, but if this is for your portfolio, the end results should be more important than the revision time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to make the bug actually bigger.
Definitely a good idea.
And it's going to be clearly in front of the tree. So you get some of that glow. And if the bug's glowing, make it like it's as bright as the ferns right now. Like really make it glow. Let me erase some of the space in this tree. Nope, not that. Erasing the top of this tree. Erasing some of the space around the ferns just to make it blend better. And then, so this is the color of the glow right now. It should be brighter and more warmer. Or cooler, adversely. Let's try and make it cool. Well, no, it's a light bug. It's got to be warm. Okay.
Yeah, I think basically the scene one would work well.
Yeah. So, make it like real warm, like, and real bright, you know? Make it something like that. Like really make it a light source. And then if there's as deep of cast shadows on her as there seem to be, then there needs to be more cast shadow in like the ferns and stuff. So like, just for example, if it's getting as dark as it is in her, then all this stuff needs to have more murk. In general, as you get around the edges, just take a big soft brush and set it to one of your darker colors, and just watch what I'm going to do. I've got the soft round set to like 24%, and I'm just making a huge brush, and I'm just going to go around the frame with that darker color, and it's just going to pull the eye into the middle a little bit more by adding that sense of murk. You know, obviously you can do it a little more polished than I am. I'm just doing like a pass over on the whole thing. But yeah, and then up here, since this is empty now, you need to do something like this, where there's another branch coming up at the 3/4. So like there needs to be like another branch growing out of the tree up here or something, or a branch turning towards this direction to fill that triangle. So there should be something here filling that space, because that's just empty now.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, you know.
And you know, if you want to, here's another big one.
Yeah.
It's not that big. Actually, if you tilted her a few degrees to the left, like rotated her a few degrees to the left, I think she'd fit the perspective of the scene a lot better.
With the shell and all?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that. Okay.
But again, and like all my suggestions are really at this point, I mean, apart from tilting her a little bit, that's just to fit perspective. But as far as the crops and everything like that, it's really just to add multiple layers, like parallax to your image.
Yeah.
So you got things clearly working behind other things, behind other things, behind other things.
Yeah. So like this?
You know what, Dan, in that situation, what you just did, like just do Command J.
Command J?
Yeah. And all that, what that'll do is just duplicate your selection into a new layer.
Oh, I already did that. No,
I know, but you did it with layers.
Okay, yeah.
The pull down, you did a copy and paste, right? Or
yeah, I did copy paste.
I'm a shortcut junkie.
Command J. I never get used to it because I'm left-handed.
Okay, that explains.
That's weird. Like all those things are over on the other side of the keyboard. But anyway, yeah. So I just rotated her up a bit. We'll click it off. Yeah, I agree with Trevor. Having her straighter up is gonna maybe even a little more so. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works better.
It's fitting in a lot better now, yeah.
She can sink down a bit too. So, just in general, this just works better. Whoops.
Whoops. Whoops, buddy.
I guess I can't undo that. Okay, whatever. I'm sorry, I just added that big black mass up in the corner. Ignore it. Ignore it. But anyway, yeah, this looks better than what we had before, which is. Did I lose the link? I guess I did.
You can go back in history.
Yeah. There it is. So, this is what it was before. This is what it is now. I have to agree that this is better. I would even say, because, okay, so here's what it was before. I'm going to zoom out a little just so we can fit them both on the screen. Here's what it is now. I like this way better. It's way more active. It's better use of the canvas. The only other thing I'm going to suggest is that you actually crop up a little bit.
Add a little space to the top of the painting to keep her out of the center.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
As far as keeping that spiral's still technically there in some of the elements, but I think in the situation you created, parallax is far more important than that composition.
Yeah, yeah. The spiral's still there. Don't worry about it. Like, look, this branch is still reinforcing things. You do have to.
Roots on the opposite side of her.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I'm gonna do though is gonna change that a little bit. So I just recropped it because it's still too square for me and it's bothering me. And I feel like this should be set up like a page in a book or something, so it looks like that kind of illustration. So, you know, you've got your tree over here. You got your tree here that I accidentally painted over. You know, whoops. Sorry.
You not use this for anything?
You got your tree over here. You got your branches here. You know, have this one fan out, up, whatever. You got your other tree here. And then one thing I don't like about this that I'm going to change right now is that this whole branch is way, way too close to her shell. It's making a weird implied tangent. And I think
Now you're going to raise it?
tilt it up diagonally and raise it to break that as much as you can. Now that you have a higher top to your canvas,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
you can bring that branch up here and try to minimize that. So it's going to make the tree look higher too. It's not going to look stunted really. So
What do you mean, what's wrong with the square shape? Square compositions are really hard to look good.
yeah,
They lend themselves a lot better to graphic pieces than they do to full-on illustrations. It's harder to tell a story in that space.
very few illustrations are square. There's almost none.
Yeah, and it's harder to plan the illustration around a square composition. It really is.
Yeah. Vertical automatically lends itself to book, and wide automatically lends itself to cinematic. Square doesn't lend itself to anything we're familiar with, because square isn't an entertainment format. By default, there's nothing that's really square, so we don't read things as squares. Square compositions become awkward because they're unfamiliar. If you do something like this, the mind goes, okay, it's like a story. It's like a storybook. Okay. If you do something wide, it's like, oh, it's, CinemaScope. It's it's old westerns. It's whatever. You do square, it's nothing. It's unrelatable unless it's just a design that's rooted in being a square, which is one way to do it. That's great. But if it's an illustration, it's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, your piece wasn't square. It was strangely wide. It was just a little too wide to be a square, but not wide enough to be cinematic. It was somewhere in the middle. And when you're doing illustration, those weird middle zones are things you want to avoid.
They're uncomfortable. They don't lend themselves to movement or action all that much.
Yeah, you want to be clearly one way or the other.
Old TVs were not square. They were 4:3.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't square. Trust us, guys. We know what we're talking about. Seriously. I know it seems like we can be like dicks and we might tell you to change everything, but trust me, square is not an illustration format that is used often. It just isn't. No matter what you say, it doesn't change the fact that it just is not commonly used, and there's reasons why. And we just gave them to you.
I'll tell you what, I'll never be a dick to anybody that's honestly trying to better their skills and is looking for help and looking to use that help, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. And it's great that you're coming on and letting us do these crits. I just want to let you know that square compositions are a major bugaboo, and if it's something that you do...
I love that you use that word.
It's a bugaboo.
Like grandma.
If it's something you do, you should get away from it and start working with rectangles, vertical or horizontal.
All the kids are doing rectangles now.
All the kids are doing them.
Every single kid we know is doing rectangles.
And I'm just going to fog up this background for whatever. Just, you have it get foggier as it recedes. It'll make it easier for you, and it'll make the glow more believable in the foreground. So that's it. And then, you got to balance the black. I already talked about that. In this fern here, bring the black from behind the fern into it so it doesn't look like it's glowing and iridescent, Bring that in. Same thing with the fern over here. The spaces between fern blades are totally transparent. They're not translucent. But other than that, I think it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, man. Like it honestly, super proud of you guys when you bite off more than you can chew and you make it work.
Plus, you used almost all the crits I gave you last time on this image. So, good job. You're actually doing stuff proactively, which is good. You're taking criticism. Now, I'm asking you to really take criticism and push this thing to finish in this new format. Because it's going to look way better. It already looks way better. Okay, cool. So yeah, hopefully you guys can see the difference between image A and image B and just how much stronger it is here.
It's been pumping iron.
But yeah.
I'm doing the insanity workout.
You could even go in here if you made it darker and have bats hanging off this branch. And it could be like, oh, we're spooky animals. we are spooks. All
We
right.
get in your hair.
But
We're gonna get
anyway,
in your hair.
we're gonna ruin all your clothes. That's moths. No, I don't know. I'm really tired. All right, so we got another paint over to do.
Right,
That's the one I just did a paint over. I said I would take very quickly because I already critted it. I'll do it very fast. Just a couple suggestions.
Oh, and Alex,
It's been
sorry,
20 minutes.
no time to write up a crit for you yet. I've got the email. I looked at it. I'll definitely get you something this week. I'm just super swamped right now.
He's swamped, guys.
I'm swamped.
Pun intended with the image on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and erase out this shell from that glow. Yeah. In general, erase out the glow around the edge so it doesn't look like a soft round brush. Make it look like there's things floating in the air there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did.
Like dust and stuff. You know? Stuff like that. Things around it. But anyway. Okay, so hold on, there's something else I gotta do.
Hey, John.
I can't stop in good faith. Is John Brassel in here?
Yeah.
Hey.
He's the only man in this thread that makes me feel short, or at least that I know of.
Make that brighter. See what I just did to the wings by adding that little bit of white? Make that brighter so it actually looks like the light's coming from the core of the bug. So anyway. Here you go. Now it's working better. Do you see the differences? Is it working? Alright, cool.
It's working.
So I'm going to move that off for a minute, and I'm going to go to this very Frank Frazetta painting. And the big problem here is anatomy. In general, the composition is, you know, it's been done before. One weird thing is that you're cropping the sword off the top of the canvas, which isn't usually done in these kinds of poses. I might suggest doing something else with the pose so the sword's not there getting cropped off because it's making a weird negative read. I might say...
Stab the angel.
I might say have the sword on the ground with his hand on the pommel, or have his sword up at an angle. Or just raise the top of the canvas and add the sword, but that might screw up the composition. So anyway, the first thing is, I know you aren't a pedophile, but the woman...
How do you know that? I'm just throwing it out there.
He might be. The woman in this piece is way smaller than the guy. She's like his daughter, maybe. Like if his daughter fully developed breasts at age 10, that's what it is. So, you know, because his eyes are on a fourth, I'm tempted to shrink him instead of increase her. So I'm going to try that.
John.
What did John say?
It happens sometimes.
Oh, John, I'm sorry. I didn't even intend that.
For those of you that don't know, John is 9 feet tall, and his girlfriend's 4.5.
It's actually a true fact. Trevor's not exaggerating. John is like 9 feet tall, and Don is like half of John. I'm really sorry. I didn't even intend for that to be anything. I wasn't thinking, John.
You're being insensitive.
I'm a fool.
It's a good thing you don't live in San Francisco.
I'm a fool. One thing I will say, which is like really weird, I don't think I've ever seen this on here before. You're like rendering the feet really well. You're just like there's all kinds of weird anatomy issues in this painting, but like the feet themselves are just like really good feet. So good on you for feet.
Feet are hard to do.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna try shrinking him because the girl is just like, I don't know. If he's like that, the girl's still a little too small. But it's like, at least he's not a fucking giant at this point. It happens sometimes. Fuck you, John. That's so funny. Okay. Like, and I know you might be saying to yourself, well, now he's not super heroic. Yeah, but now he's not a fucking giant either. So the next thing is that, hold on, I gotta bring the bear in. Bring the ground up. Bring the bear in. Okay. So the next thing is there's a couple weird things. The first thing is that there's not really any color or temperature difference anywhere. Everything's very gray. Everything's very desaturated. I don't mind that you made it like an overcast day and it's all cloudy and stuff, but you need color in a painting, and just adding that blue on the face isn't enough. You need more color. And I'm just going to try and do a saturation layer and just see what happens. It might look like total crap. Very orange.
Well, you can also select out the color range you want to affect with that too.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do that though. I'm gonna do levels, and then I'm gonna do a color balance layer.
Okay.
I'm gonna try that instead, just to get a little more control. So see what happens when I start adjusting the levels in this? The ground just becomes black. You know what I mean? Like, it just becomes black. So that should give you a hint as to why the values aren't really working in this. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to erase out the adjustment I just did on the ground and keep it on the characters.
Using a layer mask?
What? Is that what he's doing right now? Is that a mask?
No mascara.
Is that a mask? Yes, it is. So, okay. So, there's a little more pop in the characters now as a result of that. Hold on. You don't want it to be totally black around your characters, though. That's the thing. Is like, that's going to be the balance that you have to find, is doing this while not sinking to black. Because black is not a color you want to use too often in this kind of painting.
It's really a place to divert attention. I mean, that's
yeah,
your biggest use for it, depending on your lighting situation, of course. I mean, if there is a need for it in certain pieces, but with something where the piece like this is sort of, you know, the hazy daylight, foggy, or whatever, black is going to be where you're going to be drawing attention.
Choose a color and a material for the ground that's going to make sense. Choose something you can actually look at and study. I'm just going to make the ground kind of cool because they're a little warm, and maybe that'll make them pop more. And I'm just trying to think of basic stuff here because right now the ground is nothing. It's just a brown mass. Like, it could be rock, could be pebble, could be peat moss, it could be sand. Like, I don't know what the ground's going to be. That you got to decide that, you know. Because right now you're not telling the viewer where he is or what he's doing. There's hints of, like, I don't know if that's a castle in the background or if it's like plateau spires, like in the western part of the country. It could be either or. You got to identify where he is, what the environment is, what's going on. Another thing you've got is that the light source is, let's see. The light source is clearly behind him in your original painting. The sun is in the clouds behind him. and yet he's catching highlights wrapping around his body, which will not happen in this scenario. In this scenario, he's going to be almost totally in silhouette. You can have a little fun with it because it's an overcast day and you're going to get weird reflected light from the clouds and whatever, but the reason why he's getting lost in this piece is because you're doing a light edge against a light background. And that means there's no contrast, and that means your character disappears. If you want to see a good example of how to do a painting like this with a similar palette, which is sometimes useful, I will show you an easy solution by one of my favorite painters, and I've used this painting on here before a few times. Look at this painting that's basically doing exactly what you're doing, but in an informed way. This is a painting by Brahm. It's a painting of Conan being very Conan, and it's the same palette as your painting. It's almost the exact same palette, including the sky behind him. So let's, I'll put that link in the chat, and you should do a study maybe of the colors he's using. I wouldn't say, well, yeah, you know what the hell, do a study of this painting. Brahm's good enough that you can do a study of him. Do a study of this maybe and use it to inform the final in this piece, because there's all kinds of warm and cool shadow things going on in Conan's body in this painting that you can borrow in yours, because it's informed, you know. He knows what he's doing better than I'm going to be able to. Like literally, you know, in this painting that I just showed you that I have on the screen, Brahm really knows what he's doing. He has a model when he does his Conan paintings that he sets up in the exact lighting scenario, and he really, you know, photographs the shit out of it very accurately. Huh?
He uses a model?
Yes, he found a guy that is that guy in the painting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he just is Conan.
Well, doesn't he live in like an Orange County or something like that? It's pretty common, yeah.
Yeah. But what I was just talking about that I'm not doing in your painting, look at that painting of Conan and look at the left side of the body. Look at that sharp, crisp, dark line against that background. Now, granted, in his painting, the light's coming from above and to the right. It's not coming from behind. It's coming from the top right. But in this kind of scenario that you have going on in yours, it's still going to have those deep shadows. But there's going to be more of them around him because he's going to be in silhouette. So there's going to be larger cast shadows across the body like this. In general, everything on him is going to be a little bit darker. You know, you can fudge it a bit on the top sides of the muscles because it's overcast, and like I said, there's going to be that weird reflective light you get in the clouds where there's kind of light coming from everywhere. When it's overcast, the light's not direct, it's diffused all over the place. It's not like, you know, the sun's basically a big spotlight and it pushes shadows in a direction, but when it's overcast, you kind of lose that. It's still there to a degree, but not as intense. So, and then he's doing another thing I want you to look at in this painting. When you get down into the legs, if you notice in Brahms' piece, when he gets down into the shadows of the legs aren't warm anymore. They're very gray and they're very cool. And the reason he's doing that is because he understands the upper body and the face is the focal point of the painting. And if that's warm, then everything around it, as it gets closer to the edge, should be cool. So just look at it, and I'm going to mark this off just so everybody can clearly see what I'm talking about. Everything in this circle, because you might not know that this is a circular composition. It is. There's a triangle inside the circle, but it's a circle. This smoke down here, curling up that ship head into the smoke curling around the back, puts Conan inside of a halo. Okay? So what's happening is that... Oh, they can't even see my selection, can they? Let me do a...
You kind of see it.
Let me do like a stroke thing. Yeah. So, there you go. So, that smoke curling around the bottom, and then the smoke curling back up around the top, and then the curve of that masthead thing that he's got the lion head on, all of that reinforces this idea that Conan's actually inside a circle right now. Like, granted, obviously his body is playing off a triangle, but it's a triangle that's intercepting a circle in the background. Okay? So everything inside that circle, if you look at it, it's warmest in the center where his necklace is, which is basically the center of that circle. That's where the brightest highlight is, where the warmest thing is. And as it moves out towards the edges, if you notice in here, like I'll paint on it in red, if you look at this area right here, notice that that kind of warm brown cream color behind Conan that's making his hair pop out so much, notice it starts to become gray as it gets towards the edge of the circle. And then back here, it's like really gray. And then back here, it's even more gray. So what he's doing is he's desaturating, darkening, desaturating, darkening, desaturating, darkening as he moves towards the edges in every direction, in every single direction. So what that does is it forces the eye into the center of that circle and it reinforces the focal point. That's how he's using color as atmosphere in this painting. So you got to do that with yours too. You're kind of doing it with the clouds in the top, but you're not doing it in the ground, and you're not doing it with the shadows in your figure. So, now, apart from all that, the most obvious thing that I can say about your painting is that the anatomy is totally blown out. If I just go back to the original, or I'll go back to my paste over, and we'll fix this real quick. The upper torso isn't as bad as the lower torso, so I'll spend more attention on the legs. Like I said, the feet are actually painted really well, which is weird. It's like a weird thing to have correct in a painting.
It really is.
Isn't it like random as shit to see
I know vets who can't paint feet, you know?
Yeah, it's like it's weird to see feet working well. It's like kind of really strange, but anyway.
Creeping us out, man.
I fucked this girl's arms up, but I'll fix them real quick. So look at the size of this thigh. That's like crazy. You know what I mean? That's like as thick as like his abs. That doesn't work at all, you know? You gotta drop the top of that down. It looks like you might be studying anatomy from like Michelangelo paintings. Is that true? I just want to know. Are you doing studies of like Michelangelo stuff? Because it's just desaturated enough and the muscles are like super fake ripped enough to make me think you're looking at Renaissance masters. Okay. Because that's what this looks like. This looks like a naked Sistine Chapel dude. As opposed to like I've been studying Hogarth dude. You know what I mean? Do you see that, Trevor?
Yeah, definitely.
Like even the colors look like, you know, they look like a fresco. You know, it looks like
seriously.
Yeah, it looks like you're studying a fresco.
Definitely some egg tempera going on.
Yeah, like that's what this is right now. It looks like some kind of egg fresco tempera painting on a wall that faded, and it's in like my art history book. So, again, start losing a lot of this. There's not going to be a highlight there. There's going to be a much deeper cast shadow here. His leg really has to thin out. I just started working on that. You know, basically the best thing you can do, I'm assuming you're a dude, because girls usually don't paint ripped dudes in Conan poses, but if you're not a dude, find a dude and make him stand like this wearing boxers or something. There's no reason you can't, you know? It's like, you got to look at how the muscles actually work.
It's actually easier to do if you're not a dude.
As a matter of fact, I'm just going to do something real quick right here.
Are you wearing boxers, Dan?
No, I'm not ripped enough to pull this off. You kidding me? Alright, cool. Let me find it. I think I have something you can use from our awesome photo session the other night. I don't care if the crits run a little long tonight. They're already running long, but whatever. So here's why photo referencing is so much fun and why it's so invaluable. Is that you can start getting things like this in your library that you just have. So when something's wrong, you can go, oh, why is it wrong? And then you'll just have it. You'll have the answer right there. I've got a whole bunch of photos of my ripped shirtless friend with a sword doing basically exactly what your guy's doing. His arms aren't across in the middle, but he's doing this. And that's essentially the same exact thing. So, so there you go. Like, look at the thickness of the leg where it meets the bottom part of the leg, Look at what you had as compared to how thin it actually is and how it tapers.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan, and he's a big dude, but he's not like what we all think of in our heads.
Yeah.
Look at Sylvester Stallone in any of his movies early on in his career. The guy's really faster. He looks like a fast dude. He doesn't look like a big buff guy that we all think of, like Rambo.
Yeah.
Look at Rambo. Look at the first Rocky. Look at Death Race 2000. David Carradine.
Yes.
He's really slim.
But the more of these kind of references you take, the more information you have at your disposal to correct problems like this. So, like, you probably have a camera. If you don't, you should really invest in one. And just start doing this stuff, because, like, now I can see, like, where things are on the body. Yeah. Trying to move this levels thing. Yeah. But it's still a little blown out. But I mean, I don't have time to fix everything in it. And then, the other thing I'd say, I already said it, is that, like, that sword's making a really weird, like, implied kind of thing that isn't resolved. I would thin the blade out a bit and fit it on the canvas any way you can, even if it means moving the arms. Because having it just run off the canvas like that is really...
It's irresponsible.
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, there's no reason to do it. You're using a digital medium. You can shift the canvas around. You can shift the character around.
You can do anything with it, but...
Honestly, the reason people let stuff run off the page is usually because they're afraid of drawing feet, and you got the feet in there okay, man. So I mean,
yeah, the feet are there, so I don't know what the hell your problem is, because that's what everyone avoids. I avoid it all the time. So I'm just gonna do something real quick and change it and show you, like, you can do anything you want. I don't care what you do with it, but just make it work. Like, make the sword fit on the canvas, because if it doesn't fit on the canvas, it's not gonna read. So I'm just gonna do the basic, like, I'm a badass, I got my sword, it's over my shoulder, like, and obviously that means you got to change the arm. So
got it caught in a bog last week, just got it back.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty proud of the sword.
So and then this arm has to go because it doesn't make sense there anymore, which means you can draw the pecs, which is, the most heroic muscles on the body. So you get those in, and then over here you can have this arm doing something cool with, like, the negative shape, like coming down at his side. So you can bump the shoulder up, and you can have, like, his arm down here, maybe with the hand open. Like this kind of thing.
Holding a head?
The bear is really tacked in. You can make it work if you really need him there, but he's just kind of not interacting with anybody. This guy's not responding to him.
You can move the bear forward and have his hand over the bear's head or something like it's his pet.
Yeah, exactly. Like make him, if you're gonna have the bear, have this guy interacting with the bear.
The bear looks lonely. I mean, you've got her interacting with him on that side of the piece.
Yeah.
Then the bear's just sort of behind him doing his own thing, like rapping or something. So.
But like, if you were to do something like this and put the sword over his shoulder, anything really is gonna work better than having it prop off the top of the page. But yeah. Anything's better than having it run off the top of the page. So, and then you'd have to define these muscles, do all that good stuff. You probably have to drop this arm down. So I'm going to do that real quick. Why won't it let me do anything? Why won't Photoshop let me do anything?
Wait, do you have a selection?
No, I don't.
Oh, a second. Let me look at your screen real quick.
What the fuck? Why won't you let me do anything? Maybe it will now.
Did you have quick mask on?
Okay, weird. No, I didn't. It's weird. It's buggy. It does stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Are you working on a CMYK image?
No, it's RGB. What just happened?
Yeah, just look at your history.
Oh,
just open up your history and check it out real quick. See what happened.
Something weird happened. No, it doesn't say anything happened.
What's the last one?
It didn't carry over any of the stuff I did.
Undo?
Oh, I know why it didn't. No. I know why it didn't. My bad. It's my mistake. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. I'll have to paint it in manually. I understand what happened now.
What happened?
What happened is I had a levels filter that went over the whole thing, and when I shut off the background so it wouldn't merge with my fix, it didn't adjust the background.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So, yeah. Yeah, you'd have to move this arm down to do this and give it some weight. You have to move it down to like here. And you'd have to show some light from back here. But yeah, I mean, this works. It works better. It's not as heroic necessarily because the sword's not up in the air, but the sword cropping off the page doesn't work. So those are my basic crits. I do more like, the wings on the girl aren't bird wings. They're just like, an idea of what people think wings are without doing research. You got to fix that. You just have to. You got to reference things. But if you make these changes in the image and you come back, I'll be more than happy to recrit it. Take a second look at it, tell you where to go from here. But just with the stuff me and Trevor have talked about already, you've got plenty of work to do. So feel free to come back and we'll take another look at it. And hopefully it'll look better. But yeah, there's where you started. Here's where we took it. Do you see the differences, hopefully? And
I love when you guys sound excited after getting a crit. That's really the best.
Yeah, that really is. That really is awesome.
Like when people get all bummed out, and I understand why some people get bummed out about crits. And I don't mean particular crits or particular people. It's just it's a lot of hard work, and either you felt like you were making progress, or you were hoping the changes weren't going to be so severe. But
yeah, never get too attached to what you're working on because there might always be a better idea than what you've got. You guys have been really mature about making those kinds of changes, and we appreciate it.
It's a rare sight.
It is pretty rare to find people that actually take crits. So make these changes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I mean, there's other stuff you got to fix, but we can do that next time. If you do this stuff, we can push it even farther. So I basically worked on the guy and the overall value color scheme. So if you come back next time and make these changes, I will work on the girl who's looking pretty good except for her face and a couple things like the leg running off the page is the same thing as the sword. Makes a weird tangent, doesn't work. So if you make these changes, come back. We'll do the bear, we'll do the girl, and then we'll do overall unifying stuff. So please do this. Come back. I'm excited to work on the next stage of it with you. And if you do reference this Conan painting by Brahm, which again you should do, all the problems you're having are answered in that reference. If you don't go get it and study it, you're doing yourself a disservice. But if you're studying it and you're borrowing from it, make sure you don't borrow the warms on the bottom. The only reason he brings those in is because there's a fire behind Conan, and there's no fire in yours. So don't get confused when you're looking at the super saturated reds in his shadows at the bottom. That's from a fire, and you don't have a fire. You have a very gray day. So, anyway, so I did 2 crits. Is there a third?
Wait, you're planning on doing 3 now?
I was going to say the first one. Let me see how much time I've got on here already. Oh yeah, dude, I've done an hour of crits. I gotta go. Sorry, I did 2. I will be back in a minute anyway, streaming. Probably. I'll just have music on because I'm losing my voice. But yeah, I'll be back. So that was good. Hopefully you guys use those, and they were both pretty rough crits, but just stick with it. Do what has to be done, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I'll be streaming, guess what, all day again tomorrow, so come hang out. A real good time. I'll see you. Oh, and wait, before I go, whose were those? Those were, what, Dark? Was that Dark, Jacob, and somebody else? Or was it, no, it was Fleasco?
Dark had something else that was...
It was Fleasco, and who was the first one?
That was Chameleon or something.
Oh yeah, Camilleon and Fleasco. Okay, cool. I'll save this as a separate stream if you need to go back and look at what we talked about. So it'll be on demand.
Oh, and I just want to let you kids know, I'm self-promotion here for a second. I'm going to be starting to stream probably next week. If you guys want to tune in.
Nice.
And learn trickery.
I know I will, because I need tricks. I need tricks badly. Alright guys, so this will be on demand. I'll be back in like 10 minutes probably on this same channel, streaming work. So I'll see you. Bye.